Hi gang, the basis of all human technology in the 41st millennium is the standard template construct system, and locating the lost data it comprises is the holy grail for the tech priests of Mars. But what exactly is an STC, and how did a set of tractor plans become the basis for an entire interstellar empire? Looking for our book club or our Tale of Four Gamers? Well, they're over on the second channel, Arbitorian's Precinct House. Links in the thing below. The standard template construct system is something mentioned again and again in the background of 40k. Not only the cause of wars and expeditions, but the reason for the distinctive look of Imperial technology. But the novels rarely explain exactly what it is and describe the technology in a number of very different ways. So, what exactly is a standard template construct? Well, for that we have to go back quite far. The origins of STCs predate the Imperium by a long time. They were originally developed as a tool for the colonists of the Dark Age of technology. The Age of Technology was a period of time between roughly the 15th and 25th millenniums, during which humanity grew to the very heights of its power and of its technological advancement. Starting with the discovery of the warp drive, humanity began to spread across the stars, colonizing the worlds of the galaxy and applying their growing scientific knowledge to the problems of interstellar travel. One of the great strengths of human science at the time was genetic manipulation, and they created new types of humanity to better exploit the resources of the galaxy and develop things like the navigator gene to allow better navigation of the warp. But the vast distances involved still meant that colonists on newly terraformed worlds were often going to be isolated for very long periods of time. And the STC system was an attempt to provide these new colonists with everything they needed to thrive. Standard template constructs were essentially very flexible blueprints and designs for commonly needed technology. Everything from weapons to agricultural equipment to infrastructure, developed in such a way that they could be tailored to the resources available on any given world. Equipped with an archive of STC designs and constructor machines, colonists could quickly establish an advanced technological base, the designs adapting to whatever materials that world offered. STC designs were, by the standards of today, advanced technology. Even if they looked basic, they made use of materials and power systems far in advance of anything we have in M3. But by the standards of the Age of Technology, these were rugged and simple, reliable designs with easy maintenance that could take a beating and still continue working potentially forever. The sum of all of humanity's skill and artifice boiled down into the most efficient designs possible. This STC information was transmitted and stored in a number of different formats. STCs could be design schemata, literal blueprints, or highly advanced data archives that responded to inputs by the colonists. Scientific advancement continued to happen through the Age of Technology, and some STC systems were developed that were essentially advanced AIs that could react autonomously to the needs of the colonists they serve. It's worth saying that the Votan of the Leagues of Votan, who are likely to have departed for the galactic core around this time, hold numerous examples of very ancient STC data. This entire system also included standard template constructors, physical machines, sometimes very large, that could fabricate the required designs automatically from either input materials or just base particles. The most powerful STCs was said to contain the sum total of all human technical knowledge and the ability to manufacture any of it on a whim, though few, if any, examples of that still exist in the 41st millennium. Armed with this technology, humanity was able to spread across the galaxy and quickly develop societies who shared an established technological and scientific base without needing to develop any of it from scratch. STC designs were flexible and simple to modify, adaptable for the specific requirements of each planet, and some of these adaptations became very common across the galaxy. The RH-1N0 tracked utility vehicle was originally a simple STC exploration vehicle vehicle, but many colonists who faced hostile Xenos populations modified it into a fighting vehicle and then further into a battle tank or an artillery piece, until the Rhino's military variant was the most common military vehicle in use across the galaxy. Similarly, the giant walking frames, now known as Knights, were originally construction and agricultural vehicles, perfect for clearing farmland, before they also became retrofitted for military use. STCs, because of their flexibility and ease of maintenance, slowly became the base for all technology used by the far-flung empires of humanity. However, the constant advancement of that system wasn't going to last. During the 26th millennium, the Men of Iron, the various advanced artificial intelligences developed by humanity, turned on their creators, and a colossal civil war broke out known as the Cybernetic Revolt. Billions died, whole worlds being consumed by robotic omniphage swarms or ripped apart by mechanivores, and humanity came close to being wiped out. The links between various human worlds were severed, and since so much had been controlled by the abominable intelligences, a lot of humanity's technology was lost forever. In the end, humanity prevailed, but it was a shadow of its former might. And at the same time, increasing turbulence in the warp kept those scattered remnants apart from each other. And this collapse resulted in two big developments for human technology. First, the remains of the STC system became even more essential for keeping the disparate strands of humanity alive. Civilizations across the galaxy fell back on those tried and tested designs, shepherding whatever remnants they still had working and conserving them through the darkness of the Age of Strife. And then secondly, humanity developed a widespread distrust of any more advanced technology than that. Unchecked technological progress had almost destroyed the species, and so the development of thinking machines was shunned forevermore, and knowledge of technology became akin to mysticism. Sects such as the Mechanicum arose, who dedicated themselves to the pursuit of knowledge and the conservation of human technology, but rather than scientists, they were more like historians or archaeologists, believing that the ancients had already discovered all knowledge and their role was simply to unearth and conserve it. In the developing religion of the machine god, new technology was considered a heresy, an affront against the power of the ancient humans who had, of course, already discovered everything. By the 30th millennium, when the Age of Strife finally came to an end and the Emperor began his great crusade to reunite humanity, the search for lost STCs had become the primary goal of the Mechanicum of Mars, the holy grail of safe, reliable human technology. As the crusade fleets moved out from Terra, they rediscovered many lost fragments of STC data, fragments of designs stored in ancient data cores, complete systems still used by the planets they came across, even occasionally working constructor machines. And this information was painstakingly pieced back together by the tech priests of Mars, and the technology that was discovered like that became part of the growing Imperium. And while the Great Crusade was probably the pinnacle of rediscovery, this same system has now been in place for 10,000 years. By the 41st millennium, the majority of advanced human technology in use across the galaxy has the origin in that STC system. Of course, basic technology still exists, locally produced. No one needs an STC to develop a shovel or maybe a simple combustion engine. And at the other extreme, there are still rare examples of unique Dark Age tech that exist, stuff that was way more advanced and therefore unsuitable for use in STCs, and which very few people now understand. But from weapons to vehicles to starships, the designs used by humanity, especially used en masse by its official military arms, almost always have their origin in revered STCs developed during the Dark Age of technology. The knowledge in those designs is now controlled wholly by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the machines that are produced are either made in sanctified forges on their own forge worlds or disseminated across the various manufactoria of the Imperium, essentially licensed out under strict oversight. Local manufactoria across the galaxy produce millions of las guns, battle tanks, blades, power plants, or civilian vehicles every year, using designs licensed from the Mechanicus and overseen overseen by rigid orders of tech priests. And while there are more independent forges like those of the Adeptus Astartes, they're still overseen by a chapter's tech marines who have served out their time on Mars and been properly inducted into the machine cult. STCs are considered holy relics and alteration is heavily prohibited, though it's important to remember that it's the technology itself, the knowledge contained, that's the important thing here. Individual magi or chapters or workshops might make cosmetic changes or present their work in different formats and sometimes even combine elements of different STCs into new functional things. Something like a starship might contain elements from thousands of different STCs, but altering the STC itself, changing the underlying technology, is strictly prohibited and considered heresy against the machine god. Within the Mechanicus itself, the search for new STCs is the main goal of their quest for knowledge, their holy task, the pinnacle of which would be the rediscovery of a complete archive, a complete STC constructor system. However, that would be an extremely unlikely find. It's unknown if any complete archives even exist. Instead, the knowledge recovered by the Mechanicus in the current age is usually fragmentary. Sections of designs corrupted by time, maybe working constructors but for one single thing, or relic blueprints copied down the ages that have their origin in some ancient STC data. Any fragments of data that are discovered are considered the property of the machine god by right, and whole explorator fleets have been launched into the void on mere rumours that there might be unearthed technology. Rediscovered human worlds would be pillaged for any lost strands, ancient vaults located and unearthed on long abandoned worlds, and whole wars have been fought to successfully retrieve the smallest strand of ancient knowledge. As you might expect, the recovery of that data is a matter of great prestige within the Adeptus. Tech priests have made their name and forge worlds raised to greater prominence because of the successful retrieval of STC data, and Imperial citizens who've helped in those discoveries have often been likewise honoured by the Mechanicus. The great techno-archaeologist Arcan Land became very famous in the 31st millennium for the rediscovery of numerous designs in the Librarium Omnis on Mars. The designs allowed for the development of a main battle tank, the famed Lands Raider, a multi-purpose utility vehicle, Lands Crawler, and gravitic plating that enabled the creation of an assault speeder, Land Speeder. And similarly, the rediscovery of a rugged tank design by the Space Wolves Legion during the Great Crusade was honoured again with naming rights. When put into production, the vehicle became known as the Liman Russ battle tank. However, this quest for knowledge has also caused friction with other Imperial departments, especially when other Adepta attempt to bargain with the Mechanicus for what it sees as its holy right. Many rogue traders have made their fortune by trading knowledge, leads, or even archaeotech recovered from lost human worlds on the edge of the galaxy, but negotiating with the Mechanicus for that can be a dangerous business. A rogue trader without a strong enough position might find their ship seized, but a shrewd trader, showing the proper deference and maybe interacting with small elements of the Mechanicum who wish to gain some prestige from this, might secure themselves lucrative maintenance contracts in the future, especially when dealing with minor forge worlds who stand to gain a lot from the trade. And of course, some organisations are simply too big to challenge. The Adeptus Ministorum famously discovered STC fragments on Fornost during the Incaria Crusade of M35, and after years of negotiation, signed accords with the Mechanicus to hand over the information on the basis that the Ministorum would have sole claim to the use of any technology developed from it. Only partial fragments were recoverable, including one for a flamethrower weapon, and when combined with existing Rhino STCs, the Immolator was born. Space Marine chapters also regularly fall afoul of this. The Predator Annihilator was born when the Space Wolves mounted approved lascannon designs onto the hallowed and ancient Predator base. All the designs involved were STC based, but it still took the Priests of Mars hundreds of years to officially ratify its sanctity, and the Baal variant of the Predator derives from STC information discovered by the Blood Angels and never handed over, much to the annoyance of Mars. The STC system is one of those fundamental parts of 40k that's never really fully explained, but is actually a big part of why the 41st millennium functions the way it does. The development of STCs very much saved humanity, allowed it to keep an operational technological base for thousands of years across the span of the entire galaxy, but it's also responsible for the technological stagnation that grips the Imperium. In the first eras, the STC system allowed for a world where technology could be used without ever really being understood, which contributed to a system where technology became seen as magic and advancement very rare. And then in the 41st millennium, that lack of knowledge, combined with the general fear of advanced technology, creates this world where science is a dirty word and where technology in the Imperium has not appreciably advanced in over 10,000 years. It's a neat idea, but one inspired by lots of other sci-fi. The idea of a cybernetic revolt that leads to a world where thinking machines are banned is straight out of the pages of Dune. But Warhammer also took a lot of inspiration from Michael Moorcock, most notably the idea of chaos and the Chaos Star. But I think this is another example. It reminds me of Dancers at the End of Time, set in the far future where the few remaining humans can reshape the planet any way they can imagine via incredibly powerful machines, yet none of them understand how or why that happens because, why would they need to? It just always has. It's also a handy excuse for the design language of 40k. The STC system is the law reason why so many 40k designs look like historical vehicles, because in the STC system, priority is always given to ease of maintenance or replaceability of parts. And it's also why so many 40k vehicles are just variants of another one, because STCs are modular and able to be combined with others. And of course, that's a massive benefit if you're making model kits. It's a very 40k solution, a piece of the law that not only enables easier model designs, but also taps into that 40k ironic combination of something that seems like an advancement, but actually turns out to just be more decline. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to hear more about the technologies of the 41st millennium, well, I've got a number of videos. One of them's probably popping up on the right. And if you'd like to support the channel, there's all the usual things. You can like and subscribe, and there's membership schemes in the thing below. See ya!